Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well today. In this video, I'm going to go over all the solutions and explanations for Unit 6 Homework 2. Specifically using percent proportions, I'm going to go over each of these problems. Keep in mind that the percent proportion looks like this. We have some unknown percent, x over 100, and that's always going to equal a part over a whole. We typically will use a to represent the part and let b represent the whole. And a couple key words that might be useful are the words is for the part and the word of for the whole. So go ahead and write that right over here. Let's look at number 1 here. 15 is what percent of 24? Okay, so we see 15 is, so that's the word is, so that's going to be A. A is equal to 15. It says what percent, so we don't know what the percentage is, so we're just going to leave that as X. And we also say, it says of 24, so of is going to be the B value or the whole. Okay, so substituting these values into our percent proportion, which is x over 100 is equal to a over b. I'll go ahead and write a on top and b on bottom. And substituting these values in, we can say we're going to have x over 100 is equal to, well, a we said was 15. We'll put that on top. And b is equal to 24, so we'll go ahead and write that on the bottom. So this is our percent proportion. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to see, how can we get from this 24 to 100? And that's going to be the same way we're going to get from 15 to x. Now, 24 doesn't go into 100 evenly. And I do notice here that 15 and 24 can be simplified. So I'll divide them both by 3, which is their GCF. And that's going to get us a simplified fraction, or x over 100. And that's going to get us 5 on top. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and 24 divided by 3 is going to be equal to 8. So at this point, now let's see if we can figure out how 8 gets to 100. I don't think it's going to go in evenly. I know it's not going to go in evenly, so you might have to do some long division. So to figure out how many times 8 goes into 100, we can just do 100 divided by 8. It's going to go in 1 time, that's 8. Subtract, that's 2, 20. 2 times 8 is 16. We have a remainder of 4. Throw a decimal 0 on here. Bring this down. That's a 40. So we have 12.5. So it looks like 8 times 12.5 is going to get us 100. So times 12.5. That means that 5 times that same number of 12.5 is going to get us the value for x. So going ahead and multiplying 5 times 12.5, or 12.5 times 5. Go ahead and multiply those decimals together. 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. So we get 62.5. So we find out x is equal to 62.5. X equals 62.5. And so we know our percent, because it says what percent. We know our final answer will go with 62.5%. That will be the answer for number 1. Number 2 says what percent of 24 is 4? Okay, so we begin with what percent. Again, we don't know the percent. That's going to be our x. This time it says of 24 next, which is, that's actually the same as the last problem, but just a coincidence. And it says is 4. So just like before, the is going to be the part. So go ahead and write that just like that. Okay. Now for the percent proportion, I'm just going to copy this from earlier. And so that's the form that we're going to try to follow. And we're going to plug in some values here. So we don't know what x is. That's what we're looking for. So that should just stay as our unknown or our variable. The value of a is equal to 4. So I'll plug that in right here, substitute it in. And b is 24. So I'll put in 24 right in the denominator. Okay. Just like the last problem, we might want to simplify first. And we see that we can divide the top and bottom both by 4. That's their GCF. So dividing them both by 4, we can write x to 100 is equal to, well, 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then 24 divided by 4 is going to equal 6. So this is definitely a little bit simpler, and the numbers are definitely smaller. Okay. Just like the last problem, we should see if we have both tops or both bottoms. We have both bottoms, so 6 times something gets us 100, right? Well, I don't know what it is, or we can actually divide to figure it out. 1 times 6 is 6, subtract, that's 4, carry down the 0. It's going to be 6 times 6 is 36, subtract, that's another 4. We have a remainder, so we do decimal 0. It's another 40, so this is going to be 6 is going on forever, right? You see that repetition, so it's going to be a repeater. So we can just go ahead and write that 6 times 16.6 repeater is going to get us 100. You can also say 16 and 2/3 if you want. It's the same thing, 16 and 2/3. Sometimes it's easier to use a fraction. Sometimes it's fine with a decimal for multiplying by 1. So we'll multiply this by 16.6 repeater. 1 times 16.6 repeater is still 16.6 repeater. So we can say that x is equal to 16.6 repeater, which is going to be 16.6 repeater percent. Okay, so if you had 4 out of 24, that would be 16.6 repeater percent. Number 3, Paula's cat ate 25 out of 40 of the treats. What percent of the treats did the cat eat? Okay, so 25 is the part, right? So, the cat didn't eat all of the treats, so that's going to be our A value. That's part of them. And of the 40, oh, there's that word of again, right? That's going to be the whole or the total number of treats. And the question says what percent. Remember, all the questions in this part are asking about a percent, so that's going to be x. Okay. Again, I'm just going to keep using the same form. This is our percent proportion. Makes it very easy to kind of set things up and solve. So we can go ahead and write x over 100. We're solving for the percent is equal to, and the part here is going to be 25. Her cat ate 25 out of the 40 total treats. Okay. Now again, you can see, how many times 40 goes into 100 and 25 goes into x, and we can go straight from there. But if you can, it might be a good idea to simplify. We can divide here by 5 and 5. That's their GCF. And when we do so, we get a simplified fraction of x to 100 is equal to, let's see here, it's going to be 5 over 8, right? So it's actually is kind of nice. You don't have to do the whole long division like we did over here. Oops, I meant right over here. We know that 8 times 12.5 gets you 100. So why do that again if we've already done the work earlier? So 8 times 12.5, so it's times 12.5. And this is going to be the same. So this actually ends up being the same numbers as in number 1. So if you recognize this, that's wonderful. So multiplying 12 times 12.5 times 12.5, that's the same thing as we did here, right? 5 times 12.5. I think we did that and we got 62.5, which is right over here. So we can go ahead and just take that information. I'm not going to write out the long division or multiplication again in this case. So let's just say x equals 62.5, which remember x represents a percent because it's over 100. So as a percentage, we'll write 62.5%. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, Sire played 36 out of 40 of the songs perfectly on the guitar. What percent of the songs did he play perfectly? Okay, so let's start with the part. 36 here is going to be the part or the A value, and the whole is of 40, right? So that's the whole. That word of came up again, and it says what percent. So what percent is asking us a percentage. We can use the percent proportion, right? Go ahead and just paste that right over here from earlier and substituting some values in. Let's go ahead and do that. So x over 100 is equal to 36 out of 40. Let's go ahead and put 36 on top. That's part of the songs he played perfectly, and 40 was the total, right? Okay, maybe we can simplify a little bit. Looks like 4 is the GCF, so I'll go ahead and divide these both by 4. And rewriting this proportion, we'll write x to 100 is equal to 36 divided by 4 is equal to 9. 40 divided by 4 is equal to 10. So it's 9/10. So if he played 36 out of 40 songs perfectly, that's the same ratio as 9 out of every 10. So that's pretty darn good. Okay. This is actually really nice for us because 10 times 10 gets you 100. So 9 times 10 will get us the value of x, and 9 times 10 is going to be 90. So we can say x is equal to 90, and what percent is that? Well, x just represents the percent because it's over 100, so we played 90% of the songs perfectly. Good job, Sire. Okay, number 5, Sam read 25 out of 30 of the books so far. What percent of the books did she read? Okay, so the part here is going to be 28. She read 28 of them, and out of 35, so it's of 35. Hopefully you're starting to see that pattern a little bit better. and it says what percent again. So surprise, surprise, this is consistent with before. All right, so what percent, these are all the same types of problem in part 1. Okay, we don't know x over 100 equals, what's a? A is 30, no, a is 28. I was looking at the last problem. And b is 35. Okay, cool. 35, I don't know. We got some, we can divide this by 7 and divide this by 7. Always look to see if you can simplify. It'll make your life a lot easier with long division and stuff. You can avoid that. Let's see, 28 divided by 7 is going to be 4, right? And 35 divided by 7 is going to be 5. Oh, actually, this works out quite nicely. 5 to 100. Well, 5 times 2 is 10, right? So 5 times 20 is 100. And then, so if we know it's times 20 on bottom, then it should be times 20 on top to keep it proportional. 4 times 20 is 80. So we can say x is equal to 80. And that is 80%. So if Sam read 28 out of 35 of the books, that's 80% of the total books that she already read. And let's check out number 6. Darren ate 8 out of the 42 pieces of pizza. What percent of the pieces of pizza did he eat? Okay, so let's go ahead and start with maybe the part of what he did eat. He ate 8. Maybe you should have chosen a different number, but that's going to be the part. And we also see 42 of the 42. So that word of comes up again as the whole. That was all the pieces that there were. And the question does say what percent again. So again, just work on noticing these patterns to help you set the problem up. Okay. We know the proportion is x over 100 equals a over b, or is over of. And substituting some values in, we have, what's a? He ate 8 of them. So I'm going to put an 8 on top, and there were a total of 42 slices, so that goes on bottom. Okay. We can simplify this. Let's see. We can divide this by 2. Is that it? I think so. Divide by 2, divide by 2. Uh-oh. I think this one's going to be pretty messy. This is going to be x to 100 is equal to 4 to... Oopsies. I forgot to use my fancy colors. 4 over... Yikes. This one's ugly. Just kidding. It's beautiful. I just don't want to do it. How many times is 21 times what equals 100? Well, a little hack for you. If you don't want to deal with fractions or decimals in any like weird way, you could actually just multiply it by, let's see. Let's multiply it by 100 over 21. It's actually kind of a little hack here. This is like a super big brain play. If you really think about it here, if you take 21, right, that 21, and you multiply it by 100 over 21, that's actually the perfect fraction we need, because the 21s will cross cancel and you do get 100, right? So I could totally do that over here as well, and multiply this by 100 over 21. Again, we can use this value just because this is the exact fraction. The decimal would be pretty not very nice just because 100 divided by 21 is going to be a weird decimal. So as a shortcut, actually, you could always do this and this will work just fine for you. So 4 times 100 over 21. I'm going to find some space to write that. 4 times 100 over 21. Yikes, no cross canceling either. So let's see. Yeah, nothing too good here. So 4 times 100 is going to be 400, and 1 times 21 is 21. We need to do a little bit of long division. So 400 divided by 21, I'll go ahead and write that here, goes into 40 once. Oh my gosh. This is 19. 40 minus 21 is 19. Bring down the 0. And 21 into 190. Let me think about that. I'm thinking maybe something like 9-ish. Let's see. Divided by, I think 9 is probably what we're looking for here. So 9 times 21. I know 9 times 20 is 180. Oh my gosh, this is 189 with 1 left over. Okay, I don't really want to go with decimals, so this is going to be 19 go ahead and write this down. Remember, when you don't want to use decimals, the remainder is the new numerator. So this is x equals 19 and 1/21, right? Whenever you have a division problem and you don't add decimals, this is your whole number, this is your remainder or the new numerator, and this is the denominator. So 19, this 19 and 1/21 we just wrote is the same thing as 400 over 21. I'll go ahead and write that right over here. If you have the improper fraction of 400 over 21, that's equivalent to 19 and 1 over 21. Okay, so after all, what did we really find out here when Darren ate 8 out of the 42 slices of pizza? I know it's like very precise here. It's about 19%, but it's, to be exact, it's slightly more. It's 19 and 1/21%. So go ahead and put that right over here. And just remember, this shortcut totally works each time you do this. If you want to deal with fractions instead of decimals, if you want to get from 21 to 100, just multiply it by the improper fraction of what you're trying to get over what you currently have. And I promise you that's always going to work. If you multiply, just say in the last, or in this problem over here to the left, 8 times what gets you 100. If you multiplied 8, right, 8 by 100 over 8, that would have worked on the top as well to get us the 62.5%. I promise this will always work. Feel free to use it if you like it, okay? All right, so now that we practiced finding the percent in these 6 different practice problems, let's take a look at part 2, where we're gonna find the part instead. Now remember, our percent proportion is going to be this x over 100 is equal to a over b, so let's see if we can figure out each of those parts. In number 7, we have what is 15% of 80. Now we're going to go ahead and still use this percent proportion. We're going to use this in each and every single one of the problems just to practice using it so we can feel super confident. And let's go ahead and see what parts that we are actually given. So remember that the is going to be the part. So in this case, we don't know what that is going to be. So that's going to be our a value. 15%. So in the last few problems, we were not given this. We were actually looking for the percent. So when we know 15%, that's going to be x. X will equal 15. And then finally, it says of 80. So the of part, hopefully it looks familiar. That's going to be our b, or our whole value. So now taking those values and substituting them in, we know x is 15 because it was 15%. So it's per 100. So we're going to 15 over 100 equals, and it says what is. We don't know what the part is, so we'll put an a on top. And b is going to be 80. I think we're told it says of 80. Okay, so we have one variable, which is a, and let's solve for it. Now, looking at this ratio on the left side, we can divide both top and bottom by 5. I think that's their GCF. And when simplifying, we will get 3 to 20, or 3 over 20 is equal to, we still have a on top and 80 on bottom. Okay, now this is actually a lot nicer for us after we simplified, because we see here that 20 times what gets you 80. You could divide, but I think it's pretty straightforward that 2 times 4 is 8, so 20 times 4 would be 80. And if we do the same thing on top and multiply by 4, 3 times 4 would equal 12. So we actually know that a will equal 12. Okay, so that's actually the part. So when we find out, it says what is 15% of 80? Well, we actually can say, well, 12 is, right? 12 is 15% of 80. Okay, so imagine if there were 80 cookies and you ate 15% of them, that means you ate exactly 12 of those cookies. In number 8, it says, what is 4.5% of 1,000? So for the what is, we don't know the part. That's going to be our a value. It says 4.5%, so any percents are going to be our x values. X will equal 4.5. And then finally, it says of 1,000. So that's going to be our b value once again. Okay, we will go ahead and use the percent proportion and substitute some values in. X was, well, we had 4.5%, so percent means per 100, so 4.5 over 100 is equal to the a value, which is our unknown. We're going to solve for it, keep it as a variable, and we'll put the 1,000 down in the denominator. Oh, this one's super nice. This one's not too bad at all. 100 times 10 gets us 1,000, so 4.5 times 10 gets us a. Okay. Now, multiplying any number by 10, you just slide the decimal over when it becomes 10 times bigger. So 4.5 times 10, we'll find out that a is equal to 45. Okay, there we go. So if you had 1,000 of something, imagine, I don't know, there were 1,000 ducks, I don't know, and you fed 4.5% of those ducks, then that means that you would have fed exactly 45 out of the 1,000. Okay, so 45 out of 100 would be 45%. 4.5% of 1,000 is going to be 45. Okay, so there you have number 8. Now let's go ahead, moving on to number 9. We said, we have here, Julian has said hello to 15% of the students in his math class. If there are 20 students in his math class, how many students did he say hello to? Okay, so we have 15%, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark that right away. That's going to be our x value. The percent is going to be x. There are 20 students in the class. That's going to be the total, right? He said hello to some of them, so that'll be our b value. And it says, how many students did he say hello to? Well, we don't know what that is, so that's going to be our unknown. So how many, I don't know, did he say hello to? I'll just go to underline that one, call that the A, so the number of students that he said hello to. So there's our percent proportion, same as before. X is 15, 15% is 15 per 100, equals, A is going to be our unknown, that's the amount of students he said hello to, and 20 is the whole. So out of the 20, what is 15%? Well, go ahead and simplify just because it's a good practice to always see if you can simplify and then do so. If we simplify, that would be 3 over 20 is equal to, let's see, we have A over 20. Oh, okay, well that's actually nice and easy here. So 20 times 1 is 20, and 3 times 1 is going to be A. So I can just say that A is equal to 3. So if there were 20 students in Julian's math class and he said hello to 15% of them, that means he must have said hello to 3 of them so far. Hopefully he's going to say hello to some more, and they'll say hello back as well. Okay. Moving on to number 10. We see that Mr. Lee gave Nishika 25% of all the money in his wallet. lucky her. And if there was $70 in Mr. Lee's wallet, how much money did Mr. Lee give her? Okay. So 25%, that's going to be the X value. That's the percent. And there was $70 in total. Okay, well, that's all the money in Mr. Lee's wallet or my wallet. That's going to be the B value or the total. And how much did I give Nishika? So how much giving? So that's part of it, right? I'm not giving her 100%, I'm giving her part of it. So that's going to be our A value. Now, once again, percent proportion, X over 100 equals part to whole or is over of. And substituting in X is 25%, so 25 over 100 is equal to A, that's the part, we're looking for that, okay, that makes sense. And B is 70, that's the total amount of money in my wallet, okay. Now we should maybe do a little simplifying. I can divide this here by 25 and divide 100 by 25. Hopefully we can see that 25 out of 100, that's common, that's 1/4, or 25 cents is 1/4. So that's going to be 1/4 is equal to A over 70. Okay. Now this one, I don't think 70 is a multiple of 4. So this one's going to be a little bit more work. 4 times something gets you 70. I could probably, reason through this in my head, but I think just to help everybody see the process, when you don't know 4 times what equals 70, just divide them. If it helps to use a calculator, I guess do that. But I'm going to show all the work just by hand in case that's helpful for anybody to see the work written out. That's 2. I guess I could use a fraction, but I'll just go with a decimal. 4 into 20 is 5 times. That's going to be 20. Okay, so 17.5. So turns out when we divided, we find out 17.5. So 4 times 17.5 equals 70. 1 times that same number of 17.5 is equal to A. So we can say that A is equal to 17.5. So when it says how much money did Mr. Lee give her, we can say it would be $17.50. Since it's a word problem, we can put some units and give it some more context. Actually, did I do that in the last problem? Okay, actually I should say probably here, say hello, Julian, I'll say Julian said hello to 3 students. So far, right? So again, if we have a word problem, I forgot to mention it's a little bit more appropriate to kind of just give a sentence to it instead of just saying what the variable's equal to. It makes a little bit more sense, okay? So with Nishika, that was $17.50. That's 25% of the $70, okay? Taking a look at number 11, 6.5% of all the students in the school dislike Chipotle. So obviously the rest of them love Chipotle, right? If there are 1,000 students in the school, how many students dislike Chipotle? Okay, so when we have a percentage, that's going to be our X value automatically. There are a total of 1,000 students. Okay, so the 1,000 students here, that's going to be the B, that's the total. And we're going to figure out how many of them dislike Chipotle, the 6.5%. So that's going to be our A value. Or sorry, I think I used a different color earlier. Yeah, dislike Chipotle. So that's going to be our part, or our A value. Okay. The percent proportion, hopefully you're getting used to, is X to 100 equals A to B, part to whole. X is 6.5. I know it's a little weird, but you can totally have decimals in fractions. If we can simplify it later, we will. A is our unknown. We're going to look for that, and there were 1,000 students, so put a 1,000 down here. Okay, so this one's supposed to be kind of piggybacking off another one you did earlier. 100 times 10 is 1,000, so no simplifying. This just goes in nicely from the beginning, so don't simplify if you don't have to, if it doesn't help you. 6.5 times 10. Again, if you multiply anything by 10, you just slide the decimal once to the right. So just slide over once to the right, and it becomes 65. So we can say A equals 65. So it says how many students dislike Chipotle out of the 1,000? Well, out of the 1,000, we can say 65 dislike. I'm just going to write dislike Chipotle. So Chipotle. Very strange preferences, right? Everyone loves Chipotle. I don't know, some people like other stuff, but I love it. Okay, cool. So it looks like a vast majority maybe do love it, but I guess we don't know, but 65 people dislike it. Okay. Moving on to this last question in this part. Number 12, Tesla stock has gone up 250% in a couple of months. If the stock was $350 per share, how much is it worth now? Okay, so 250% in a couple of months, so X is going to be that value here. And it says if the stock was worth $350 per share, that's going to be in the past. And it says what's it going to be now? So this is going to be our whole. Okay, that's what it started with, and we need to see what it is worth now. So worth now, that's going to be our A value. Okay, so let's go ahead and write the percent proportion, and we can go ahead and say, okay, X over 100 is equal to A to B, and it goes up 250%. So 250 over 100. So it went up a lot, right? It more than doubled maybe. That's what that means. And A value, we want to know how much it's worth now. But we do know before it was worth $350 per share. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right over here. Now, we could simplify the ratio on the left. We can see here, hopefully, 100 times 3 is 300. So to get 350, that would just be multiplied by 3.5 or 3.5, right? So if you have $100, but I give it to you 3 times, or 3.5 times rather, that's going to be $350. So simplifying, you could totally do it, but I think I can go straight to the answer here. So multiplying 100 times 3.5, that's 350 on bottom. And on top, we have 250 times 3.5. And going ahead and multiplying 250 times 3.5, that'll be a 0, that's a 5, that's a 2, that's 10, that's 12. Placeholder, we have a 0, 15, carry the 1, that's 6, and then 7. Yeah. I'm just trying to keep it organized the best I can. I think it's a 5, 7, 8, and then 1 decimal place. So it looks like we found out that A, or the part here, is equal to 875. Now, it should make sense that the part here of 875 is greater than the denominator of 350, so the top is bigger than the bottom. just because the top here of 250 is larger than the bottom, right? So when you ever have something that is in this case where it has to stay consistent, just keep a lookout for it, because if the top is bigger, if it's top heavy, make sure the other is also top heavy. If it's bottom heavy, make sure both bottoms are bigger than the tops, right? That has to stay consistent. Now, in terms of like reasonability, I just want to make sure this makes a lot of sense, or is as clear as possible. Now, if you have a stock, right, or any number for that value, if you have 100% of a value, if you have 100% of 350, well, that's equal to 350, right? If a stock increases by 100%, that means it actually doubles, okay? So the stock was initially $350. If it went up 100%, that means it went up 100% of 350, it went up another $350. But it didn't just go up by 100%, right? It goes up by another 100%, because again, a total it said here was that it went up by 250%. So that means it actually goes up by another $350. And after that, it went up another 50%, right? Because it went up 250%. So 250 is the same thing as 100 plus 100 plus 50. Now, what's 50% of 350? That's just half of it. So half of 300 is 150 plus half of 50, which is 25. So that's actually plus another, plus another 175. So this actually checks out and makes, it actually comes together with what we said earlier. But this is like 350 plus 350 plus 175. That's actually this, let me see, go ahead and mark that here. That's actually this 875 right here. Okay, so 300 plus 350 plus 350 is 700. 700 plus 175 is 875. So this is how much. This is actually how much it went up by, right? It increased by this amount of money. So when something goes up by 250%, you have to, double the value plus another half of it. And this is on top of what the stock was initially worth, okay? So again, this one's a little bit of a tricky problem. Just thought I kind of try to explain it a little bit more clearly. But the stock was initially $350 and it went up by 250%, which is, we found out it went up by $875, okay? And if you add those two values together, we'll get a 5 and then a 12 and then a 1, 2. So I think here we have a final answer of $1,225. Okay, so this one's definitely a more tricky problem. Still using percent proportions. It's just that when we went ahead and found out the value of A, which is the new price of the stock, that's actually like, okay, this is how much it increased by. What it increased by 250%, that 250% it went up by was equal to $875. And adding that on to the original amount the stock was worth, this is how much it is. So go ahead, you can Google Tesla stock price, and I don't know what's the date. It's what is it? It's like the end of March 2021 right now. Tesla stock, if you look at the chart, it definitely has gone up a lot recently, or at least in the past couple years. So you can see like that growth. If someone bought some Tesla stock, they probably made a lot of money. Okay, and that's the conclusion, or the last question over here in part 2. But in each of these problems, we were finding the part. Right, so each time we're finding the part of the whole. In 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, each of the parts were smaller than the whole. But in this last one, the part was actually bigger than it, since it increased by so much. Right, it went up by 250%. Alrighty, let's go. It's time for part 3. So we practiced finding the percent and we practiced finding the part. Now we're going to find the whole. So that means we must be given the part and the percent in the problem somewhere, and you're going to have to find out the whole or the B value. Okay, so let's think about what colors we used and what's the percent proportion. The percent proportion is this X over 100 is equal to A over B. And so let's see what we're given. First value here is 3 is. Isn't the is going to be on top of the of? So 3 is, that's going to be the A or the part. 20%, we like percents. Those are just the X value or the part. And then it says of what number? Okay, of what number? We don't know the B value now. Okay, that's all we're talking really. And so substituting some values in, X is 20%. So 20 over 100 is equal to A over B. Well, A is 3. We know it says 3 is. And we have one unknown. Okay, again, there should always be one unknown here that we're looking for. We know 3 of the pieces, boom, boom, and boom, 3 pieces, and then we're looking for one unknown each time. Okay, you just need to know where to put things in the right spot. So let's try to simplify a bit. On the left side, let's divide top and bottom by 10. You can just cross off the zeros, nice little shortcut. Oh, I guess we can also divide by 2 and divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1, 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 1/5 is equal to, we have 3 over b. Okay, and going from 1 to 3 here, that's going to be 1 times 3 is 3, and then 5 times 3 is going to be equal to whatever b is, and 5 times 3 is 15, so we can say b is equal to 15. So 3 is 20% of 15. Okay, that's using a percent proportion. Moving on to 14, says 42 is 60% of what number? So 42 is, that's going to be the part, and 60%, well, 60%, that is x is equal to 60, and again, of what number? Of what number, we don't know what that is, that's going to be b. Our percent proportion is going to be x to 100 is equal to a to b. 60 is x, so 60% is 60 over 100. A is going to be 42, and of what number? That's b. Maybe we can go ahead and simplify, divide this by 10 and 10. And so I'll go ahead and rewrite this. This is 6 to 10 is equal to 42 to b. 42 to b. And the reason why I'm not simplifying anymore is because I noticed that 6 goes into 42 nicely, right? 6 times 7 is equal to 42. So 10 times 7 is the value of b. Okay, so 10 times 7 is equal to 70. So we can say b is equal to 70. So we know that if you had 70, I don't know, Kit Kats, and you had 42 of them, 42 out of the 70 represents 60%. That's what we just found out. Okay. Moving on to number 15. It says Judy ended up buying 9 of the shirts that she tried on at the store. If this was 20% of the shirts that she tried on, how many did she try on? Okay, so let's see. Our percent proportion is x to 100 is equal to a to b. Right away, the percent, we know that's going to be x, so x is 20. She bought 9 shirts, but that wasn't all of them, right? That was just part of the one. So when she buys 9, that's going to be the part. And it says how many did she try on in total, right? And that's she didn't buy them all, but that the total that she tried on, that's going to be our b value, or the whole. Okay, so x is 20%, so that's going to be 20 over 100 is equal to a is going to be 9. She bought 9 of them out of how many? Well, we don't know, but that was 20%, right? You can divide this by 10 and 10 to get 2 over 10. We can divide that by 2 to simplify a little more. It says 1 to 5 is equal to 9 to b. And say, okay, 1 times what gets you 9? Well, we like the unit because it's easy. You can just multiply by 9. So 5 times 9 is going to get us b. 5 times 9 is 45, so we can say b is equal to 45. So she must have tried on, I'm going to go say Judy must have tried on, whatever you want to say, try on 45 shirts in total. Okay, so if she tried on 45, but she bought 9 of them, 9 out of 45, it goes in 5 times, it's 20%. Okay, moving on to number 16. It says Jay ate 8 slices of pizza. This was 25% of all the slices. How many were there in total? Total's the whole. Okay, so going ahead, percent proportion, put that right over there. Lovely. X is going to be 25 because that's the percent. Jay ate 8 slices. That wasn't all of them, right? So when he ate 8 slices, that's going to be the part. I'll say that's A. And then it says of all the slices. Well, we don't know. And that's also the total. So X is going to be 25. So 25 to 100 is equal to A to B. 8 slices is what he ate out of the total. We don't know. Okay. On the left side, let's bring these down to some smaller numbers. 25 out of 100 is the same thing as 1/4. And we have 8 over B. Alrighty, so, okay, this one's not too bad. We like having a 1. 1 times 8 gets you 8. And then 4 times that same 8 is going to get us the value of b. So b would equal 32. Okay, now what does this mean? Well, J ate 8 slices, and this was 25%. The question said how many were there in total? There were 32 slices in total. Go ahead and write that. Right, so if he ate 8 out of 32, that's exactly 1/4 slash in percentage-wise, that's going to be 32%. Sorry, 25%. The total is 32 slices, though, if he ate 8 of them. Number 17, Dolev goes to Starbucks a lot and orders a pink drink 80% of the time. If she's ordered a pink drink 90 times, how many total drinks did or has Dolev ordered at this point? Well, we see a percentage. I just like marking that right away. Makes my life a little bit easier. That's going to be the X value. And so it says what? If she's ordered the pink drink 90 times, but that's not all of the times, right? Since it says 80%. So this 90, that must be the part. I'm going to say that's going to be the A value. And it says how many total drinks has she ordered? So total, well, that's the whole, right? Whole is everything. It's the total. So we go ahead and write the percent proportion. That's right there. And X is 80 because that's 80%. So 80 over 100 is equal to 90 over B. Okay. Now on the left side, we can simplify, divide these both by 10 to get this 8 over 10. And let's see, can we simplify some more? I think so. We could divide by 2 and divide by 2. I don't know if this really helps us too much, but it's worth, I guess, trying. So it'll be 4 over 5. Yeah, 80% is 4 over 5 is equal to 90 over B. So I'll get it right, 90 over this B value. Now, the bottoms we don't know, but 4 to 90, 4 times what? 4 times 10 is 40. 4 times 20 is 80. Okay, I know what it is, but let's just, write it out. So 4 times what gets you 90? This goes in twice. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract, remainder of 1, bring down to 0. 4 into 10 twice. That's going to be 8. Bring down to 2. We could write it as a fraction, but we could also write it as a decimal. So I'll go ahead and write decimal, 0. 4 into 20, well, 4 into 20, that's going to be 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20 exactly. And we have no remainder. Lovely. So it's going to be times 22.5 times 22.5 or 22.5. So that means 5 times 22.5 will get us the value of B. Okay, so we got to do a little bit of multiplication here. I know, a little bit extra work. 5 times 22.5, 22.5 times the value of 5. That's going to be 25, carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12, carry the 1. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So it looks like we have 112.5. I think that makes sense, just double checking. Yeah, seems pretty reasonable. So 5 times 22.5, that means we can say that B is equal to 112.5. So it says how many total drinks has Dolev ordered. So to be precise here, I know it might be a little weird that she ordered half a drink, but exactly, it would be 112.5 drinks in total. Maybe she canceled her order halfway through or something, but this would just be the exact proportional value, right? So sometimes we do have to round and things like that, but in this case, let's just write the exact value, and it would be 112.5. And finally, let's take a look at number 18. It says Jackie finished 15% of his new video game. He spent 2 hours playing the game so far. How many hours would he spend playing the video game at that rate until he's completely finished? Okay, so 15%, right? That's going to be our X value, the percent. He spent 2 hours playing the game. Do you think that's all of it? Nah, he only beat 15% of the game so far. So we go ahead and say that 2 hours, that's going to be the part. I'm going to put the A over here on the side. And it says how many total hours to maybe beat the game. So how many hours would he play? How many total hours? Yeah, so how many hours? I guess it doesn't say total, but we know that 2 is the part. And we're looking for how long it would take for him to beat the game. Letting our percent proportion to help us out here, we can go ahead and say, okay, X, actually, sorry, we know it's 15. 15 over 100 is equal to, A is 2, right? He spent 2 hours playing. Out of the total, don't know. See how long it takes him to beat the game. Divided by 5? Yeah, divided by 5. and that's going to be 3 to 20 is equal to 2 to some value of b. Okay, so how does 3 become 2? Well, it's got to divide by something, I'm assuming, right? But divide by what? So to figure that out, it's the 2 times what is 3, so we can do 3 divided by 2. 3 divided by 2, that's going to be 1. 1 times 2 is 2, remainder of 1, decimal, decimal, 0. 2 times 5 is 10. So it's 1.5. Okay, so 3 divided by 1.5 is equal to 2. So 20 divided by 1.5 is going to get us our b value. Okay, so 2 times 1.5 is 3, so 3 divided by 1.5 is equal to 2. Now we just have to figure out 20 divided by 1.5. So a little bit more annoying, but keep in mind, we don't like having a decimal out here in our divisor, so we can go ahead and multiply both the dividend and the divisor by 10 just to make some whole numbers. So after multiplying both dividend and divisor by 10, we now have 200 divided by 15, which will get us the same answer we're looking for. So this will be a 1. 1 times 15 is 15. We have a remainder of 5, bring down to 0. 15 into 50 is 3 times. 3 times 15 is 45. Remainder of 5. So we do decimal, decimal, 0. And I think you notice here, or hopefully you notice there's a pattern. It's a 50 again. So it's going to be 13.3 repeater. Okay, so we go ahead and just say B is going to be, what did we say? 13.3 repeater, 13.3 repeater. So it says how many hours would he spend playing the video game until he's completely finished? We can go ahead and say 13 hours, and well, 0.3 repeater is 1/3, right? And so that's gonna be 20 minutes, 13 hours and 20 minutes to beat the game. Or you could also say 13 and 1/3, right? 0.3 repeater is 1/3, 20 minutes goes into 60 minutes 3 times. So you can say 13 and 1/3 hours if you're just trying to keep it only in hours, which I think the directions say, but you know, just want to make sure you understand they mean the same thing. Just move down and give myself some room to close it off. Okay, so there are your problems for part 3 where we find the whole. Okay, so each time in each of these examples, you're given the part and you're given the percent and you're looking for the whole. Okay, that wraps up parts 1, 2, and 3. So that brings us to part 4, or our enrichment section. So these parts, or these questions, are supposed to give you a little bit more thinking, or to make you think a little bit more, just to kind of solve and reason through them. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and solve them one by one and go through them, and I'm going to still use the percent proportion. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is what I'm still going to follow, same model, this is what we're practicing. Later on there's other techniques you can also use, but this is pretty common to use first. Okay, so what percent? That's our x value. We don't know what that is. Of 70, so of, that's our b, and then is the 21, so that's going to be the part, so it's a, right? So plugging it in, we will have x over 100 is equal to 21 over 70. 21 over 70. Okay, so we would definitely want to try to simplify the ratio here. Divide by 7 and divide by 7. If we do that, we can say the new equivalent ratio or proportion here is going to be x to 100 is equal to, what is this? 3 over 10, right? 3 over 10. Okay, and why is this so nice? Well, look at this. This is beautiful. 10 times what gets you 100? 10 times 10 is 100. 3 times 10 gets you whatever x is. 3 times 10 is 30, right? So we can say x is equal to 30. So our answer is just going to be 30%. Right? If there were 70 bowls of ramen and you ate 21 of them, then you ate exactly 30% of the bowls of ramen. That's a lot of ramen. Okay. Okay, that's number 19. Let's check out 20. We'll still use this percent proportion. The is on top. So remember, is over of. That's going to be the is. That's on top. The percent is going to be 15%. That's x. And it also says of what number. So of what number we don't know. That'll be our b value. So x is 15. 15 to 100 is equal to 150 to what number? Okay. If you're worried about the numbers being really big, don't worry too much. 15 times 10 is 150, just adds on a 0 at the end. Whenever you multiply by 10, you can add a 0 or slide a decimal over, so times 10. 100 times 10 is 1,000, so B is equal to 1,000. So when it says of what number, that number we're talking about is going to be 1,000. So 150 is 15% of 1,000. Okay, moving on to number 21, it says 236.8 is 74% of what number? Okay, so percent proportion, that's going to be this right here, our handy dandy percent proportion. The 236.8 is, that's going to be the part. 74% is going to be our x value, and then of what number, we don't know what that is, that's going to be b. Okay, so x is 74%. This one, the numbers are definitely not as nice. 74 over 100 is equal to, looks like we have 236.8, 236.8 of what number? I'll put b down here. Okay, not too much we can do. I'll try to simplify this one on the left, I think by 2. What's half of 74? I know it's even, so half of 70 is 35, and half of 4 is 2, so 37. It's a prime number, okay. So we have 37 over 100 divided by 2 is 50, and that's equal to 236.8 over b. Okay, now I don't know my 37 times table, so we have to figure out how to get from here to here. So I guess we just have to divide, right? So kind of annoying, as I'm sure some of you may feel, but good practice. Gives a little exercise. 37 decimal goes here, doesn't go in here, doesn't go in here. 37 times 10 is 370, but 37 times 40 times 6 is 240. I'm gonna go with 6. Let's try 37 times 6. It's 42. Carry the 4. 18 plus 4 is 22. So 222. That works. Nice. So 6 times 37 is 222. Subtract, that's 4. That's 1. That's 0. Bring down the 8. 37 into 148. 148 divided by 37. What's that? Let's try 37 times 2 is too small. 3 should work. 4. Oh, 4 might work. 7 times 4 is 28. Carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 2 is 14. So 148. Oh, beautiful. 4 times 37 is 148. Remainder of 0. So it's exactly 6.4. 37 times 6.4 I would not have known unless I divided. So 50 times 6.4. So 50 times 6.4. Let's go ahead and write that on the side somewhere. Running out of space. I'll do it over here. 50 times 6.4. That's a 0. That's going to be a 2 and a 0. That's going to be a 0, and that's going to be a 3. And then 0, 0, 2, 3, 1 decimal place. So 320. I'm going to go ahead and say that B, I guess we'll say B is equal to 320. So 320 is the number we're looking for. So if we had 236.8, that's exactly 74% of 320. So imagine there are 320 candy bars and you ate 236.8 of them. You're going to get a stomach ache probably, but that's 74% of all of the candy. Okay, a little bit trickier with the decimals. Finding out this 6.4 was the bridge getting from the left to the right and the left to the right, but dividing that down helped us out. We just had to be good with long division and some multiplication. Okay, one more problem here in this top part where we're just doing some non-application questions, just some like normal practicing the process. 114.6 is 30% of what number? So 114.6, that's the part, just because we see the word is. that kind of lets us know. This 30% is going to be x, and it says of what number? We don't know. That's going to be the b value or the whole. So again, here is our percent proportion. Substituting in, it says 30%. I'll put 30 over 100 equals, that's going to be 114.6 over something. I don't know what it is. And that's b. So divide these both by 10. This new simplified version that's hopefully less scary looking, we still have to get 114.6 over b. Divisibility rules, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6, plus 6 is 12. Oh, so this will go in nicely. When I say nicely, I mean it won't like keep on going forever, which I think that's nice. 114.6 divided by 3. 3 goes into 11 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 11 minus 9 is 2. Bring down the 4. 3 into 24 is an 8. 8 times 3 is 24. 0, there's a decimal point here, so we should write a decimal point, bring down the 6. 3 into 6 is a 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 0. So 38.2. Turns out, how do you get from 3 to 114.6? Well, you multiply it by 38.2. Okay, so on the bottom, if you multiply 10 times 38.2, we should get the value of b. Multiplying anything by 10, you just slide it over. So b will equal 382. So the number we're talking about here is 382. All right, let's check out some application word problems now. So moving on to number 23, it says when you go out to eat at Nomad Pizza and the food costs $58.24, sales tax is 6.625%, and you want to leave a 20% tip. Write a percent proportion and solve it to determine the total amount of money the food actually costs. Then determine the cost per person to the nearest cent if 4 people are splitting the bill. So again, our percent proportion here is going to be x over 100 is equal to a to b. And this requires a little bit of extra thought here. So well, you need to figure out what the sales tax and what the actual tip is going to be. So there's 2 extra things going on here. So you're going to pay the $58.24, right? That's the cost of the food. So this is the food. But then you're going to also have to add on another value here, right? You have to add on tax. So how do you find tax? Well, that's going to be 6.625% of the food. So it's a percentage of the food. So of means the total of food. Of is the whole. So this is going to be the tax part. But then you have to add on the tip as well, right? So then there's the tip. So there's a few different things you're going to have to add on. Tip is just 20% of the same value, right? Of 58.24. So we have to do a little bit of work to figure this stuff out. But to figure out the total cost, it's really straightforward here. It's going to cost more than the total that we start with, right? So we know the original total is going to be $58.24. So 58.24. That's the original part. And what you're going to pay on top of it and the total, we have to actually figure that out. So we have 100%. And what percent on top of that are we paying? Well, you have to pay for the food, right? So 100% of the food is just a 100%. And you have to add on the 6.625% for tax. And you have to add on the 20% for the tip. And so this is real, right? In New Jersey, you would add up these values, 6.625, add the 100%. That should be 126.625%, okay? That's the percent of the total, and we're gonna go ahead and find out what you actually pay. So A is gonna be what you pay. If this number here is larger than the total, then this should be larger than the total. So if the price of the food was $58.24, obviously you're not gonna pay $58.24 because you also have to pay tax and tip on top. So this number's bigger, the value of A should be bigger as well. Okay, so this is our percent proportion. So while there's a few different ways to solving this, I'm going to go ahead and keep using the percent proportion. So 100 times something is going to get 58.24. So I could do 58.24 and just divide that by 100. And that's just going to be times 0.5824, right? If you were to multiply that by 100, you would slide the decimal over twice. It would be 58.24. So multiplying things by 100 is super nice because you just slide the decimal left or right depending on which way you're going and what direction. So unfortunately, fortunately, finding that value is pretty easy because 100 is a nice number. The unfortunate part is the fact that we have to multiply some pretty ugly looking decimals here. So I will go ahead and write this out, but we have 126.625. What am I doing? I am supposed to be multiplying, not dividing. So 126.625 multiplied by 0.5824. Cool. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. So 5 times 4 is going to be 20, carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1. 4 times 6 is 24 plus 1 is 25, carry the 2. 4 times 6 is 24 plus 2 is 26, carry the 2. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2 is 10, carry the 1. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So hopefully that is correct. I'll check this afterwards on a calculator, maybe just to double check. And we need a placeholder. Okay, moving on, 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. 2 times 6 is going to be 12, carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1 is 13, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5, and 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, so that's the second row, done, done, done. Moving on to the next one, put some 2 placeholders now. What do you have? 5 times 8 is going to be 40, carry the 4. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 4 is going to be 20, carry the 2. Okay, 8 times 6 is 48, plus 2 is 50, carry the 5. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 5 is going to be 53, carry the 5. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 5 is 21, carry the 2. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 2 is going to be 10. Okay. Now, looks like we are done with the 8. We should have 3 placeholders. 1, 2, 3. Done with these numbers up here. Whew. This is a long multiplication problem. So we have, what do we have here? 5 times 5 is 25, carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is going to be 12, carry the 1. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 1 is 31, carry the 3. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 3 is 33, carry the 3. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13, carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is going to be 6. So x 0, 0, 0 with a 1, it's a 7, 8, 9, 14, carry the 1. That's 4, 5, 6, 14, carry the 1, 3. Oh my gosh, if this works, this is going to be amazing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 decimal places. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I hope this is right. Okay, so this value that we just found out for A, the total, A is going to be, what do we have? 73.7464. Okay, now since this does say round to the nearest cent, right? Then we can go ahead and take, this is the pennies place or the hundredths place. This 6 tells us to round up. So the total cost here is going to be 73.75, right? That's what it is rounded to the nearest penny. And that's going to be for the total, right? It does say what's the total cost. So even though the food costs $58.24, if you're going to have to pay tax and then you're going to tip, then that total is going to be $73.75. To the nearest penny, that's what that's going to be. So go ahead and box this. That's part of your answer. So I'll go ahead and write that down too. But the total cost, right? Total cost is equal to $73.75. Okay, so that's what that's letting us know. And the question does go on to say, what if there are 4 people that are splitting it? So if you split this 4 ways, then you should take this and divide by 4. And the question says, well, how much does each person pay? So 73, let's go, 73.75 divided by 4. It's nice there's a whole number out there. That's a 1 times 4 is 4. 7 minus 4 is 3. Carry down the 3. 7 into 33, 8
8 times 4 is 32. So 1, bring down the 7. 4 times 4 is 16. That's a little less than 17. Bring down the 5. 4 into 15, that's 3. 3 times 4 is 12. Bring down the 3. And just one more for good measure. Just kidding, we need to round, so it's a 7. That was important to know, but we don't really need to know anything else. So we can tell we need the penny here, so 7 tells the 3 to move up. So what can we say? We can say that this is going to be $18.44 per person. So if you split the money, it's not going to come out perfectly. Someone's going to have to pay maybe an extra penny or something, but we found out that this should be $18.44 per person. So again, for our percent proportion, this is our same thing that we've been doing in the rest of the homework. And with the percentage, how did we get this percent here? Well, we know we have to pay for 100% of the food. You have to pay for tax, you have to pay for tips. So the total percentage is if you just add them all up. 100% is like all of the original. So the food originally is 58.24. Adding on a bunch of tax and tip, you have to find a higher percentage. So 100 times 0.5824 got us this. So 126.625 multiplied by that same value will get you A, which is why we did this entire multiplication problem. Round the money to the nearest penny, 73.75. That's the total cost of the food. But if you split it 4 ways, you just use long division to find out that's going to be $18.44 per person. So hopefully that's correct. I'm pretty sure it is. $18.44. That seems pretty reasonable. Okay. Let's move on to 24. Okay. 24 says, if there are 35 points on a quiz and you used your big brain and got 110% on it, write a percent proportion to determine how many points you actually earned out of the 35 points. Explain why your answer is reasonable. Okay. So let's write a percent proportion again. So you got 110%, so that's got to be X, right? That's going to be the percentage, and it was out of 35 points. So I think if it's out of, or there's that word of again, if it's out of 35 points, that's our B value. So X is 110, 110% is equal to, it says how many points did you actually get? Well, we don't really know, but it's out of 35. So I'm going to put A over 35, and let's see if we can figure some stuff out now. So we can divide this both by 10, and I don't think we can simplify anymore. So we have 11 over 10 is equal to A over 35. Well, how many times does 10 go into 35? Well, 10 times 3 is 30, 10 times 4 is 40, so that must be 3.5 right in the middle. So nice little shortcut here, just kind of reasoning through it without doing too much extra work. So we need to figure out what 11 times 3.5 is. So 11 times 3.5, that should get us the value of A. That's going to be a 5 and a 5 placeholder, 3 and a 3, 5, 8, 3 with 1 decimal. So let's just think about this. 38.5, that seems pretty reasonable. I think so. So we can say A is equal to 38.5. Right, so it says actually how many points did you earn? You can say you earned or I earned a total of 38.5 points. Now it says, why is this reasonable? Well, keep in mind here that this 110% was more than the bottom. So why is this reasonable? Well, the answer of 38.5, that goes on top. 38.5 is bigger than 35, right? So if this 110 is bigger than 100, then the value of A has to be bigger than 35. That's the only way this forms a proportion that is true. So we found out it's going to be 38.5. So is that reasonable, right? I think so. 38.5 is bigger than 35. So that is really good. So you earn 38.5 points. Why is it reasonable? Well, it's larger than 35. So why is it reasonable? It's larger than 35. I'm not going to write it all out, but the reasoning is just because 110 is bigger than 100. The numerator is bigger than the denominator on the left, so the numerator on the right has to be bigger than the denominator on the right. Okay. Cool. So yeah, that's basically it. Again, I tried to say some of this out loud, so if that made sense, wonderful, but it's larger than 35. I think that's pretty reasonable in terms of where it should be roughly about. Okay, so the top has to be bigger than the bottom. For 25 says, as of 2020, about 59.5% of the global population was living in Asia. If there were about 7.8 billion people living in the world, write a percent proportion to determine how many people are living in Asia. And then it says the US population was about 4.75% of the global population in 2020, right? A unit ratio of people living in the US to the people living in Asia. Okay, so for the percent proportion for the first part, that's going to be x over 100 is equal to the part over the whole, a over b. So 59%, 59.5%. Okay, so okay, let's go ahead and say that's 59.5. That's our x value over 100 is equal to, there are 7.8 billion people in the world. Okay, so to make everything a little bit easier, how can we write this? Well, maybe I'll just keep it as 7.8. Let's just keep in mind that this is not really 7.8. This is 7.8 billion, okay? So what does 7.8 billion mean? Well, I don't know. Maybe this is going to be easier if I write it out, if you're not used to this. 7.8, well, that's going to be 7. 800 million, that's 100,000s. So let's see here. This is the hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, millions, 10 millions, 100 millions, and then billions. So 7.8. So that's what this actually is. So this might help give you some like idea of like how big like a billion is, okay, in terms of all the zeros and things like that. Okay. So to figure out how many people were living in Asia in 2020, we can go ahead and say, okay, 100 times, let's see. Well, this has 2 zeros, so just take away 2 zeros here. They already have that in common factor. And so we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more zeros. So this is going to multiply by 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 78 million. So 100 times 78 million gets you 7.8 billion, or 7,800,000,000. It's a big number. So we're going to do the same thing on top. We'll multiply by 78. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you can go ahead and multiply that out. And if you want, you can pause the video to do that. At this point, I'm just going to multiply it out using a calculator just to get this value a little bit quicker and save a little bit of time here. So A is going to be exactly 4, what is it? 4, 6, 4, 1, and then 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I think that's exactly what we need. Yep. Okay, again, this is probably an approximation, but this is 4,641,000,000 people, right? So it says how many people are living in Asia. So we can say 4,641,000,000 people. This is in Asia. Okay, so I'm just going to put a box around this since this is pretty important. And that is more than half, right? So 7.8 billion, this is about 4.6 billion. Okay, so that's how many people are living in Asia as of 2020. Now, looking ahead at the US population, I think this is US or North America, I forget which one, but this is pretty close. Using our percent proportion, let's go ahead and take this. Same format, okay? Except this time our percent is 4.75%. So we'll say 4.75%, that's out of 100, and the total is going to be the same, right? The total people is 7.8. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I don't think I wrote that right at all. I'm getting a little sloppy, a little tired. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I think that's right. Okay. Yep. And this is going to be an 8a value over here. And what can I do to save myself a little bit of time here? Go ahead and multiply this out. That's that. And then the top should be the same. So 4.75 times 78 million. So I'm going to use a calculator again. 4.75 times 78 with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. Cool. I think I'm getting a value here of A is equal to 370,500,000. So this is going to be 370,500,000. Man, I'm off with my zeros. This is in the US. This might be North America, but I think this is what we're looking for. So including Canada, right? Says write a unit ratio. Okay, one final thing, write a unit ratio of the people living in the US to the people living in Asia for 2020. So unit ratio, that means we need to be per one. People in the US to the people living in Asia. So if we were to go ahead and write that, it would be, where can I squeeze this in? Here, I have an idea. You guys already saw this, so oops, maybe I will just get it. I don't want to really get rid of it, but I'll make it smaller, put it on the side. So you can still read it, I hope. Hopefully it's not too small. Okay, so let's write the ratio of a unit ratio. We need per one. So let's say, I guess it makes more sense to do per one person in the US. So it's one of the, this is how many people are in the US. That ratio to 4,641,000,000. So this is the people in the US to the people in Asia, just to make a comparison. I know we live here in the USA, but it's good to kind of compare to and see what else is out there. Simplifying this ratio, you could divide by, I guess, a lot of zeros here. That was 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10,000. So this ratio simplifies to 3705 to 46410, if I'm not mistaken. 46,000 to every 3,000. Okay, and now to get it completely per one individual in the US, I'm going to use a calculator again just to save some time. So if I divide by 3707, this is 1 to 46410 divided by 3705. So let's see, that looks like it's about 12.53-ish. So if I were to round this, just to make things a little bit easier, we would say there's like a 1 to 13 ratio here. So pretty crazy to think about, I guess, or it gives you some perspective to think about. For every one person in the US, or North America rather, I think if that's what it is, then there are 13 people living in Asia. So that's 13 times more of the population is living in Asia than in this part of the world where we are. Okay, so something to think about. Pretty interesting to give you perspective that the US is actually just a very small part of the world in terms of population. Okay, so the ratio is about 1 to 13. Okay, last question then. Let's move on and say, okay, in 2018, 11.2 million people living in the United States immigrated from Mexico, 2.9 million people from China, and 2.6 million people from India. If the immigrants from Mexico represent 25% of all immigrants, immigrants from China represent 6%, and immigrants from India represent 6%, how many total immigrants living in the US were born in these three countries? So this question is actually easier than you might think, just to get you to think a little bit about the world and just to kind of think about parts and wholes. But it says how many total immigrants living in the US were born in these three countries. It's actually a pretty straightforward question, but I'm going to set up a proportion just to kind of give you some reasoning. So 11.2 million were coming from Mexico, and then 2.9 million are coming from China, and 2.6 million are coming from India. And a couple things I want to make very clear here. Well, first of all, this is representing 25% of the immigrants. In 2018, this they said is roughly 6%, and this is roughly 6%. So in the grand scheme of things, these are pretty close to each other percentage-wise. 2.9 million and 2.6 million. I mean, there is a 300,000 difference or so, but I think when you look at it in the big picture, it is somewhat closer together. So 11.2 plus the 2.9 plus the 2.6 is going to be 16. What is that? 16.7. So when it says how many total immigrants living in the U.S. in 2018 were born in these three countries, you're going to have this as our value. Okay, so this is going to be 16.7 million immigrants from these three countries. Immigrants. Okay, now if you wanted to set up some sort of proportion, well, if you added up these percentages, 6%, 6%, and 25%, 6 plus 6 is 12, 12 plus 25, that's going to be 37%. So if we set up a percent proportion, x over 100 is equal to the whole a over b thing, so a over b, part to whole. Then if you want to find out, well, how many immigrants maybe were there total or something, well, we know what 37% of them are, right? 37%, don't need a percent sign, we'll just put it over 100, that's the same thing. We know what 37% is. 37% is going to be the 16.7 million immigrants that came from these three countries. They were born in these three countries and now live in the United States. And what is the total amount of immigrants in the United States then, though? So that might be something we are wondering. So to do this, I'm actually just going to use a calculator. So 37 divided by something gets you 16.7. I don't know what it is, so why don't I just do 37 divided by 16.7? And that's roughly about 2.22. So it's not exact, but again, I'm just rounding for the sake of being able to understand what the values are. So 100 divided by 2.22, 100 divided by 2.22 is going to be about 45.05. So I can say B is roughly 45.05. So we now know that, well, how many million immigrants came from these three countries? Well, we already figured out that 16.7 million. I'm going to go ahead and write 16 with 700,000, 16.7 million immigrants from these three countries. So it's 16,700,000 from Mexico, China, and India. Okay, that's how many came from those three countries. And we can also say we had 45.05, so 45.05, so 050,000, just to write out the number so you can see it a little bit more clearly what I'm really talking about. Total. So as of 2018, we have over 45 million people in the United States that weren't born in the United States, were born in other places. And we can see here that about 16.7 of them are coming from these three countries. So that's pretty high relative to it. But many other immigrants from many other countries. Maybe you know one. Maybe you know some of your classmates or some of your friends or family. My parents were immigrants to this country, and that's how I got here myself. So cool. That wraps up this video on some explanation on all of these 26 questions. So hopefully you found it helpful to understand and see the process and the thinking here, how we can understand the world a little bit better, and then use our understanding of ratios, equivalent ratios, and percents and percent proportions to reason through and understand things in a little bit deeper way than you might have before. Okay. That wraps up this video, and keep up the great work, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, see ya.